Imagine driving across an endless desert. The sun is beginning to set, painting the sky with deep shades of orange and crimson. The wind carries fine sand across the empty road, and in the distance, you notice something unusual. An entire village. Stone houses. Ancient temples. Narrow streets. Everything still standing. But there is one terrifying detail. Not a single person lives there. No children laughing. No smoke rising from the chimneys. No footsteps. Only silence. For nearly 200 years, this village has remained completely abandoned. Local people refuse to stay there after sunset. Tourists who visit during the day often leave before nightfall. Many believe the village is cursed. Others believe something far more terrifying happened here. Because according to local legend, nearly 1,500 people disappeared from this village in a single night. Not over weeks. Not over months. One single night. How could an entire community simply vanish without leaving behind bodies, records, or evidence? And why has no one ever returned? This is the mysterious story of Kuldhara, one of the world's most haunting abandoned villages. Long before it became a ghost town, Kuldhara was one of the wealthiest villages in the region now known as Rajasthan, India. Founded more than 300 years ago, it was home to the Paliwal Brahmins, a respected community known for their intelligence, farming skills, and remarkable engineering. Living in the middle of the desert was never easy. Rain was rare. Water was precious. Most people believed building a prosperous settlement here was impossible. But the people of Kuldhara refused to accept that. They designed an advanced system of canals, wells, and water reservoirs that allowed crops to grow where almost nothing should have survived. Over time, the village flourished. Beautiful sandstone homes lined the streets. Families built temples decorated with detailed carvings. Markets filled with merchants selling grain, spices, and handmade goods. Travelers passing through the region often described Kuldhara as one of the most organized villages they had ever seen. Life appeared peaceful, successful, prosperous. No one could have imagined that within a few decades, every house would be empty, every street silent, and every family gone. The mystery began during the early 19th century. At that time, the region was controlled by a powerful local ruler whose government demanded increasingly heavy taxes from nearby villages. Among his officials was a man whose reputation terrified the people. His name appears in local legends as Salim Singh. Stories describe him as ruthless, ambitious, and determined to increase his wealth regardless of the cost. According to one famous legend, everything changed when he became obsessed with the daughter of a respected village leader. He demanded that she be handed over to him. If the villagers refused, he threatened to destroy Kuldhara forever. No one knows exactly how much of this story is true. Historical records from that period are incomplete. Some historians believe parts of the legend were exaggerated over time. Others believe it reflects a real conflict between the villagers and the local administration. Whatever the truth may be, something extraordinary happened. Because one night, without warning, the people of Kuldhara made an impossible decision. As darkness covered the desert, the people of Kuldhara gathered in complete silence. There were no celebrations, no weddings, no festivals. Instead, every family carried only what they could hold in their hands. Parents woke sleeping children without explaining why. Elderly villagers leaned on wooden staffs as they slowly walked through the narrow streets they had called home for generations. The sound of footsteps echoed through the village. Ox carts rolled quietly over the stone roads. Nobody cried. Nobody argued. It was as if everyone had already accepted that they would never return. According to local tradition, this wasn't just one village leaving. More than 80 nearby villages were said to have joined the same escape during that single night. Thousands of people disappeared into the darkness before sunrise. When morning arrived, the streets were empty. Doors remained open. Clay pots sat untouched inside kitchens. Furniture was left behind. Some homes still contained cooking utensils, storage jars, and everyday tools. It looked less like a planned migration, and more like life had suddenly stopped. The ruler's officials reportedly arrived expecting frightened villagers. Instead, they found complete silence. No families. No farmers. No merchants. No leaders. Only an abandoned settlement slowly being swallowed by the desert wind. But what happened next transformed the story into legend. Local people began telling a chilling tale. Before leaving, the villagers had placed a curse on Kuldhara. They declared that no one would ever live there again. Anyone who tried would suffer terrible misfortune. For generations, people refused to settle there. Travelers avoided spending the night. Even shepherds preferred taking longer routes rather than crossing the empty streets after sunset. As decades passed, nature slowly reclaimed the village. Roofs collapsed. Walls cracked beneath the scorching heat. Sand drifted into abandoned homes. Temples stood in silence, watching over streets where children once played. The once thriving community became a ghost town. Then, nearly 2 centuries later, archaeologists arrived. And they hoped science could finally answer a mystery that legends never could. The first archaeologists who walked through Kuldhara expected to find answers. Instead, they found even more questions. The village covered a vast area of the desert, with hundreds of sandstone homes carefully arranged along narrow streets. Even after nearly 2 centuries, the layout revealed something remarkable. This had never been a poor settlement. The houses were well planned. The drainage system was advanced. Large courtyards suggested wealthy families had once lived here. Nearby temples showed evidence of a thriving religious community. Whoever built Kuldhara understood engineering far beyond what most people expected from a desert village. Researchers searched the buildings one by one. They hoped to find signs of war. Perhaps burned homes. Broken weapons. Mass graves. Anything that could explain why an entire population disappeared. But there was nothing. No battlefield. No human remains scattered through the streets. No evidence of a massacre. It was as if thousands of people had simply walked away and never looked back. Archaeologists uncovered broken pottery, ancient coins, farming tools, jewelry, and household objects. These discoveries painted a picture of everyday life. Families cooked meals. Children played in the streets. Farmers worked the surrounding fields. Merchants traded with nearby towns. Everything suggested Kuldhara had once been a prosperous community. Then researchers began studying the region itself. The desert around Kuldhara had changed dramatically over the centuries. Water sources that once supported farming had slowly dried up. Climate conditions became harsher. Trade routes shifted to other towns. Some historians believe the village may have been facing an economic collapse long before it was abandoned. Others point toward increasing political pressure. Historical records describe rising taxes placed on local communities. For many families, survival became almost impossible. Perhaps the famous legend about Salim Singh wasn't the only reason they left. Perhaps it became the final push after years of hardship. But another mystery remained. If the villagers planned to leave, why did they abandon so much behind? Many homes still contained heavy household items that could have been taken. Some storage areas appeared to have been left in a hurry. It almost looked as though the decision had been made very quickly. Or perhaps, the people believed they would one day return. But they never did. As scientists continued their investigation, modern technology entered the story. Ground surveys mapped the ruins in incredible detail. Experts discovered hidden foundations beneath the sand. Entire sections of the village had remained buried for generations. Every new discovery revealed how large Kuldhara had truly been. Yet none of them answered the biggest question. Where did the people go? No official records describe the destination of every family. No document lists the exact number of people who left. No map shows where the entire community settled afterward. It's as though they disappeared from history, leaving behind only empty homes. And a mystery that refuses to die. As the mystery of Kuldhara spread across the world, it attracted not only historians, but also paranormal investigators. Television crews arrived with night vision cameras. Researchers carried electromagnetic sensors. Some visitors claimed they heard whispers echoing through the empty streets. Others reported footsteps behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. A few even said they felt as if someone was watching them from the ruined houses. These stories quickly fueled the legend that Kuldhara was cursed. But scientists remained skeptical. There was no physical evidence proving supernatural activity. Instead, they focused on what history could explain. Ancient tax records revealed that many villages in the region had been suffering under increasing economic pressure. Years of drought had reduced harvests. Water became more difficult to find. Trade routes shifted away from the area. For communities living in one of the harshest deserts on Earth, survival itself became uncertain. Some historians now believe Kuldhara wasn't abandoned because of a single event. Instead, it may have been the result of several disasters happening at the same time. Political pressure, economic collapse, water shortages, fear of the future. Combined together, they may have forced thousands of people to leave forever. Yet one question still refused to disappear. Why did every family leave together? History is filled with villages that slowly declined over decades. People usually leave one by one. Families move away gradually. But Kuldhara appears different. Local traditions insist that the entire community disappeared in a single night. If that story is even partly true, it remains one of the most extraordinary migrations in history. Today, the village stands exactly where it has for generations. Some historians believe it reflects a real conflict that became exaggerated through generations of storytelling. Others believe it symbolizes the oppression the villagers experienced under local rulers. Whatever happened, the people of Kuldhara made a decision that would echo through history. Instead of surrendering, they walked away. They abandoned homes their ancestors had built. They left temples they had prayed in for generations. They carried only what they needed to survive. And before disappearing into the desert, legend says they left one final warning. No one would ever truly live in Kuldhara again. Whether that curse was real or simply a story, one fact remains undeniable. Nearly 200 years later, the village is still empty. Its streets remain silent. Its houses stand frozen in time. Visitors come from around the world searching for ghosts. But perhaps the real mystery isn't supernatural at all. Perhaps the greatest mystery is how an entire community could vanish so completely that history still struggles to explain it. Every broken wall, every abandoned doorway, every temple weathered by centuries of desert wind, reminds us that civilizations do not always end with war. Sometimes they disappear quietly. One family at a time. One difficult decision at a time. Until all that remains is silence. And maybe that's why Kuldhara continues to fascinate historians, archaeologists, and travelers alike. Not because we know exactly what happened, but because we don't. History is full of questions. Some are answered by discoveries beneath the earth. Others remain buried forever. Kuldhara is one of those places. A forgotten village. a haunting legend, and a reminder that the greatest mysteries are often the ones history never fully explains. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's most fascinating mysteries, subscribe to the Story Files.